Tamako Market was recommended to me by the master of sexy times, Abi, over in the Discord chat, which you should join, as we're like a whole big family over there. Get it? Get it, people in Discord chat who's watching this? Do you understand? But he recommended it to me, so I decided to review it and view it. And what I saw, I enjoyed for the most part, although there are a couple problems. It's hard to just outright say, I hate this. Of course, this is another Kyoto Animation anime that's from original source material just for this story, and is directed by K-On! And Koei no Katachi's director, Naeko Yamada. I was just very excited to check this anime out and see how it compared to K-On!, and if I were to rank them, I'd say K-On!'s better, but all the technical aspects like art, animation, and even score from K-On! Carry over here in Tamako Market. But that's enough of that. We'll talk about that more in the video.
Daisy! Midori, Kana, see ya!
Inside the Usagiyama shopping district lies an eccentric but close-knit community of business owners. Tamako Shirakawa, a clumsy though adorable teenage girl, belongs to a family of mochi bakers who own a quaint shop called Tamaya. One day, Tamako stumbles upon a talking bird that presents himself as royalty from a distant land. Dera Mochimatsu, as he calls himself, states that he's seeking a bride for his country's prince. Intent on his mission, Dera follows Tamako home and develops an addiction to mochi, becoming painfully overweight and subsequently unable to fly back to his homeland. Thus, he takes up residence with Tamako's family and becomes the community's beloved mascot. Meanwhile, Tamako's friend, Mochizou Ooji, continues to hide his true feelings for Tamako. Their fathers are fierce mochi rivals, but will it be enough to drive a wedge between Tamako and Mochizou? And just what will happen to Dera's task to fighting his prince's destined bride? Tamako Market aired in winter 2013, making this anime half a decade old. It is also directed by the legendary Naeko Yamada, who is known for Koei no Katachi, Tamako Love Story, the sequel film to Tamako Market, and the mega hit K-On! The anime was also licensed by Sentai Films in North America and is directed in English by the legendary Chris Ayers. Also, a full-length light novel of this anime has been published and is available for purchase since 2013. There are a total of 12 episodes with a runtime of 24 minutes apiece. Tamako Market is of course directed by Naeko Yamada, and because of this it has the trappings of something directed by her. We have the cute moe characters, the twist on the regular slice of life story, and a pretty faithful story to the meaning of slice of life. Meaning that this story is literally a slice of someone or a group's life. And this is the kind of animes that she makes, literal slices of life. But this is also this show's biggest downfall, as nothing in this series really builds to anything I felt was memorable, and sometimes my enjoyment was ruined because of this. Let's take for example the talking bird, Dera. Dera is an interesting character because he comes from a place where there are talking birds that also double as living projectors that can project live footage with pretty much no delay. In many ways, he is a portable Skype just without the text chat and the computer, and he's a living being. This character by far is the most enjoyable of the characters, but they fail to properly explain anything about his abilities and why he can talk. His involvement in this story begins and ends at he's fat because he eats a lot of mochi, and he can do some magical stuff. And this is pretty much the best way to describe the story, honestly. Nothing is really fleshed out, and while we get great art and animation from Kyoto Animation here, we are left with little to nothing in the way of story. This anime is downright forgettable for a vast majority of it, as it feels like a 5-episode anime stretched to 12 episodes for reasons. And this is the main reason Tamako Market will not only be the least watch of Kyoto's work, but also seen as Naeko Yamada's weakest of directed series.
Wow, these flowers are pretty.
Yes, I just got those in.
Really?
Apparently their fragrance becomes quite intense at night.
Wow.
I talked about this a little before, but the characters begin and end at whatever basic function they have for the story. Everything else about them is heavily dialogue based, and you're never really told a lot of things about them. Tamako's father has an interesting arc, but nothing really compelling, and at the end, when you're supposed to figure out what happened to Tamako's mother, the show decides to likely save that for the film. Honestly, outside of Tamako, Dera, and Tamako's father, there are no real characters that interest me here at all. Some characters even infuriate me, like for example Choi and the Prince, which are both from Dera's homeland. It just feels like those characters were only introduced to signal the end of the series and move on to the film, which is just disappointing. In my opinion, these two characters didn't add anything when they could have. We could have gotten answers to what Dera is and his origins, and just why he can speak. Instead, these characters are really just there to be cute, and like I said, signal the end to the series. It was honestly a huge letdown. And this is kind of how I describe the characters as a majority, a huge letdown. Now, they aren't the worst. We have moments of brilliance with Tamako and Dera, mainly Dera as he is the most compelling and unique of the characters. As for Tamako, she has her moments. She seems to be very quirky and endearing with her personality. But other than that, on the whole, these characters are just disappointing.
Oh no! Tamako, are you alright?
Yukiko Horiguchi does the character designs, and this is what I want to focus on first in this section, as she absolutely kills the designs in this anime. She has worked on virtually every Kyoto Animation film and series, and then some, and it shows as her designs are great and distinctly moe. And now I'm not sure who started this whole moe thing, but I am fairly certain Yukiko started the whole moe trend as we know it. And, you know, she also worked on Air, Canon, and Clannad, which are known for being some of the first moe anime out there. But there is one thing you may notice with this show, and that's the comparison of the characters between K-on's characters and Tamako Market's. And with good reason, as Yukiko also designed the characters for K-on. If there is one thing I like about her work the most is her attention to smaller details that people take for granted. And as a couple of examples, we have Tamako's frayed hairs and Dera's highlights of colors in his feathers. These small details are things I kept noticing throughout in terms of character designs, and it's just a small example of many more I can name. These visual elements really help with the characters, well, they help with the character's character, I guess. Tamako is a quirky girl, and Dera is a sophisticated bird on the outside. And what better way to show off these traits than frayed hairs and flourishing colorful feathers, respectively. These small things help distinguish the characters, but also helps you figure out the characters sometimes before they even develop the story or the characters themselves. Just look at K-on! We all knew Yui was a ditz. We all knew Mio was the more mature of the group, and all of this is really because of the way they're designed.
Wow, that really shocked me!
In terms of Kyoto animation, the animation here will not stand out, but still remains an example of why Kyoto is so popular. Character movements, facial expressions, etc., they are all there and animated, well, as you would expect from a Kyoto Animation anime. This comes as no surprise from fans of Kyoto Animation's works, but for those who want more examples, let's take, for example, a couple small ones. The first one is Tamako and Mochizou sharing a string and a cup to talk to each other at night from across the street. Not only is that freaking adorable and cute, but the animation for them throwing the cup to each other is really good and fluid. Another example is the facial expressions, which are just incredible. In terms of moe moments, there aren't really any like there is in K-on, as the show goes for more grounded human characters. Not to say that K-on aren't human characters, but continuing on, it's kind of strange as there is a talking bird, but you get the point of what I'm trying to make here. Characters really show off great emotion, whether it be Tamako's dad, who's drunk sometimes, Tamako herself being worried that she lost one of her items, or even Dera trying to impress a young girl as he fell in love with her. Yeah, that does happen, I promise you. Overall, though, the animation and art really pick up a lot of the slack the story leaves behind, and that sounds hard to believe, but one of the main reasons I wanted to keep watching was for Kyoto Animation's great design and art philosophies.
I'm sorry about that, Mr. Bird. Did I hurt you?
It simply won't do
Huh?
for you to be smitten with me.
How do I say this without sounding like I've found my first love? Well, I love the score for Tamako Market so much that I'd marry this score. Which I think saying it like that may make it seem like I've fallen desperately in love with this quirky and beautiful score by Tomoko Karaoka. But honestly, I love it even more than that. I think this score isn't up there with the likes of Cowboy Bebop, Evangelion, or even K-On! For some reason it's up there with those. But it is a great score that belongs in my favorites for sure. Not only that, but I also like the opening and closing for this anime, and every time I started and finished an episode, I'd watch them all in full. And here's the surprising thing. This isn't even the kind of music I like. But the opening and closing captured me and didn't really let me go. Overall, go in expecting a score that may not be the greatest of all time, but expect a really good score that will carry a lot of this show, just like the art and animation do. And also check out those opening and ending songs. They're actually really good.
I just don't understand why you're on my head.
I suspect you are deeply embarrassed.
ADR for this anime is done by the legendary Christopher Ayres. Now, the English dub here is really good. It's another Sentai dub, but this is one that, to me, it works out pretty well. I enjoyed Margaret McDonald's version of Tamako, and while I have nothing to compare it to, as I opted to not watch the Japanese sub along with the English, it's still a good performance on its own. Tamako really comes off as quirky and a little unaware, and I really like that about Tamako as a character and her voice. And another fantastic performance I enjoyed was none other than Jay Hickman as Dera Mochimatsu, or the talking bird in the show. Jay really nailed this character's feel and how I think a stuck-up bird would sound like if he could talk. Because of Jay's performance, I can easily say that Tamako Market's dub is a must-watch so you can just hear Dera's voice with Jay's performance.
I'm just pretty amazed that you're able to talk.
That's hardly worthy of praise.
Oh, I'm not praising you. It's scary, and I want you to get off me.
Tamako Market is one of those anime that is a slice of life with some really great ideas, but fails to capitalize on them. Whether that be Dera's backstory or simply developing the characters more beyond vague, simple descriptions or small hints of backstory. And honestly, this anime fails in the story and characters because of the simple fact that it's a slice of life anime. This story and setting really needed to have a goal in play. It needed that objective. And sadly, once it's introduced and it seems like that's the goal of the series, the goal is forgotten to simply go back to the same old. Tamako Market isn't the worst anime I've ever seen, but it's also infuriating to watch sometimes and even boring. Tamako Market is the definition of a standard above average anime. Forgetful anime. And that is so hard to say because I'm a huge fan of Kyoto Animation. But I have to give this one a 6 out of 10. Tamako Market is an anime that I'd go out of my way to see personally, but if you're a fan of Naeko Yamada's works like I am, then this is probably something you'll watch last on your list of her works. Now, I'm not sure about the film as that's pending, but as it stands now, Tamako Market is cute, it's moe, it's got good art and animation with a solid dub. But Tamako Market just has a lot of problems with the story that simply makes it forgettable at just about every turn. And to me, that's disappointing, as K-On! Is a very memorable anime, as it's basically everything Tamako Market desperately wants and needs to be, but just fails miserably at times. This is an anime that is carried completely by its technical aspects rather than its story. But hey, if you like slice of life and you like cute moe girls and boys, go check it out and give it a shot. You may like what you see, and you may hear what you like. Something like that. I don't know why I said that like that. That was weird. Anyways, thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed the review. What are your thoughts on Tamako Market if you've watched Tamako Market? I love to hear your opinions down below. Let's start a discussion. And speaking of discussion, let's start another discussion. Did my review help you decide to go and watch this anime, or did it help you decide not to watch this anime? Please tell me down in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear your opinions on this anime. And tell me, what are some of your favorite Naeko Yamada directed anime, or just some of the, your favorite anime that she's worked on. So I'll see you guys later. My name is SeaTactics for the Wind of the Wise, and it has been signing out.